All right,
What
if
does he
you
want to know?
he wants to know if you could, how would you change the Constitution? And no, you
Well, the
can't just
first thing,
turn. You cannot turn it into a monarchy. Let me stop you right there. You cannot turn the country into a monarchy. Uh, so sorry,
you
buddy.
didn't know I was
You have to work in the confines of a republic. So
you
go
didn't know I
ahead.
was going to do that.
You were going to do that. I know you,
You
and
don't
you were
know
going to
that.
do that. Yeah, I
Not
do know that.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have been a gradual change over like 3 months or something.
No gradual changes either.
All right. Well, okay. Well, there's several things I would do. Are you ready?
I think so.
Can you take it?
I think so. I'm a little scared
The
though, but
first,
okay.
I would repeal most of the amendments to the Constitution after the Bill of Rights.
Any particulars in mind?
Well, yeah, I would repeal the 18th prohibition. Oh, I'm sorry, that's already repealed. Never mind. Someone did my work for me. Uh, I would repeal, for instance, the Senate's uh, being voted for popularly. I would return the choice of senators to the state governments. I would remove the strictures on state power that came from the Reconstruction amendments. I would definitely, I would probably pass a new amendment defining more clearly the relationship between the feds and the states. And I would pass a new amendment defining the powers of the Supreme Court much more clearly. No more making up laws from their own little brains.
Well, how do you do that? Like, what does that look like then?
Well, what I think would do is, as I say, having returned the Senate to the control of the states, from my reading of the Federalist Papers anyway, it was originally intended that uh, the American Constitution would work somewhat like the British. Now, prior to the worthless scumbag Tony Blair introducing the Supreme Court, the top court of the land in Britain was the Judicial Committee of the House of Lords. And it seems apparent to me, and they were the ones who decided on the constitutionality of issues. It seems to me that that is precisely the right venue to determine the constitutionality of a measure. Because remember what the Constitution is really, or supposedly. It's a contract between the states. The Senate was designed to be the watchdog of the states upon the federal government. Who then should have the right to determine the constitutionality of federal laws? Well, the states. But of course, you can't let them do it individually because then you'd have nullification and chaos. So what you do is you have it done by the Senate judiciary.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. So that's they would determine the constitutionality of federal laws, state laws being determined by state
But that
Supreme Courts.
but that doesn't fix things per se.
No, it doesn't fix things, but there's only so much fiddling with the Constitution can do. It would make things somewhat better. And of course, having gotten rid of the 16th or 17th Amendment, I'd have gotten rid of the federal income tax.
So, okay, interesting.
So the feds would have to finance themselves alternatively. And how would they do that? Well, through constitutional means. And what would that mean? A sales tax. It would mean a sales tax across the board because, not everybody has a high income, but everybody buys stuff. So you have a flat sales tax, flat federal sales tax. The more you buy, the more you pay. Rich people automatically would pay more because they buy more. Now, the downside is that you would lose the IRS and all those wonderful government jobs that go with it. Sorry.
Interesting. I remember so that plan was basically, I mean, other than abolishing the IRS, it was Ted Cruz's plan, the flat
Yeah,
tax.
yeah. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Uh, and I have to say that having gotten rid of most of the amendments to the Constitution, while the First Amendment would forbid any of the states from discriminating against anyone because of their religious beliefs, it would not prevent the states from establishing a church if they felt like it. And all the stuff, no prayer in schools and all this garbage, that would vanish immediately. Now, mind you, it would all go back to the local level, to the state level, which means people would have to figure this out on their own, and doubtless there would be some unpleasantries. But there are unpleasantries now. The difference is, if it's done at a state level, it's a bit more manageable than when it's done by 9 old men sitting in Washington and pulling the ideas out of their noses.
Hmm. Okay, is that it?
That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Why did you? Well, I always joke about adding a third house to Congress, which would be the House of Lobbyists, in which all the major interests of the country, instead of just bribing representatives and senators, they would literally buy a fixed number of seats. And that way they'd be personally responsible for things. Like, let's say, for instance, you're a senator, and I'm Union Chemicals, and I'm able to buy your vote on a measure, and the thing goes south. Because of your vote, the plant blows up, there's a chemical cloud that kills half a dozen people over somewhere. Well, you get blamed for that instead of your paymaster. Whereas with my House of Lobbyists scheme, they would be directly responsible for any legislation they manage to get through Congress.
Yeah, greater transparency. I like it, right?
Exactly.
What's
Exactly.
wrong with
Tupper
that?
House
Yeah.
be able to go halfies with Tad and buy two congressmen in the House of Lobbyists.
But still, I mean, that wouldn't necessarily stop under the table dealings.
Oh God, no!
So what would
It's
be
the
the
nature of elected
motivation?
government.
I
It's the
mean,
nature of elected government to have under the table.
so
I
but
mean,
but what would be the incentive for a company to ever actually do that rather than exclusively use under the table dealings?
well, they'd save money.
It's how would they save money?
Well, they'd save money instead of spending thousands of possibly blackmailable dollars on a congressman. They would simply pay a relatively small fixed fee to the Congress for the third house, all up front and above board.
Well, how is that's not truly lobbying though, because you're not actually, that's not the action of buying a politician.
No, no, we would call them lobbyists for tradition's sake.
Okay. Okay, yeah, let's keep those traditions. Got it.